All right, we're going to discuss and address many topics tonight. One of the topics on this segment I want to talk about is bullying and preventing bullying. We're going to come at it from a lot of different angles. And one of the angles I'm always interested in is the perspective of a teacher, because they see students every single day, and they see them on the ups and the downs. So I'm going to start with Jonathan Chiramenti, who teaches at Sachem. And I told Stephen coming in, and one thing I want to say is that several people on the show tonight traveled a long way to get here, and I really, really appreciate, several people like Jonathan and Kevin and Stephen who've traveled a long way to get here, and it shows the commitment to making a difference. But Jonathan, talk about when you became so passionate about making a difference in your school district, in the lives of so many children you work with.
Thank you. It started why I became a teacher. I became a teacher when my father had passed away, and I was in the 4th grade. My teacher had such a powerful impression on me that, to me, that's what education was. I never looked back at Debbie Russ from 1991 and say, man, that Fire Island lesson you taught me was fantastic. And I think we as teachers, it's a great profession, but I think we really need to realize that in those 40 minutes, in those 6 hours, depending on what you teach, there's a lot more to education than just the books. And in my experience, I can't even tell you the first time it hit me that when I saw a kid years later that said, man, thank you for what you did. That's pretty cool. And in my experiences talking to kids now in the class that we teach, and even kids I don't have, they know to come to me when there's a problem. You got to humanize each other. Talking down to kids saying, don't be a bully is comical and laughable. Hiring a company with screens and lights and shows to tell you about bullying does not work. You have to humanize everybody. And that is a big part of the program. That's a big part of what I try to do in my school, and I want others to do the same thing. That's why I wear my bracelet, the green start with hello, because you do not know if a kid is walking through those doors in those hallways and not getting acknowledged all day long. It is a major impactful moment in someone's day when you say hello. And let me tell you, with education and with bullying, suspending a kid doesn't work. There needs to be something else. And that's what I hope we could talk about. I don't think having a kid sit in a room for 6 hours in ISS or OSS is the be-all, end-all. Proud that my school is starting before a kid comes back into the school, they sit with the social worker and they work on the social and emotional piece before they come back. I've elected myself to let me be the mediator, get me the kid that got suspended and the kid that has the issue, and let me say what I want without having to worry about being too teachery, and let's get things done with all kindness. But you gotta talk to them real, and I hope to have a great discussion about that.
Absolutely. Kevin, let's hear your story. When did it start, and let's talk about how you dealt with at a young age being bullied.
Well, actually, it started really young. Like, my first encounter for bullying was actually in kindergarten. Like, it was crazy. This guy, well, not a guy, he was a kid. He pushed me, down a slide. So that's kind of where it started. But then, the one that I found was more traumatic was, verbal abuse, which that gets more into your skin, and, it makes you feel just horrible about yourself. But now the thing is, I'm 26 now, and I noticed there's a lot of people who are older than me that are still getting bullied, which is crazy. People are still getting bullied at like 30 and older, and so I kind of go in my way to befriend these kind of people. Since I do stand-up comedy, there's this comedian that I met years ago, who's now one of my best friends in comedy. But at the time, he wasn't kind of the guy you he wasn't approachable. He was drinking so much and slurring his words on the stage, doing his jokes, and no one believed in him. But I showed him the ropes, and now he's doing some really big things now. Now he's actually a part of the community, the comedy community, and now he's making a name for himself, and a lot of people didn't believe in him back then, but now like he's doing things, and like that's the thing. You don't know like their capability, and it's crazy. It really is.
Daniel, Jackie, why don't you share your thoughts? And I know that your son Daniel was bullied before he took his life, so let's hear your thoughts on this.
To try to be succinct. Sorry about that. Similarly to the mental health crisis, preceding the drug crisis, I sort of feel like what you guys are saying is that there is not necessarily a bully crisis, there's a kid crisis. I'd say there are very few bullies who are not A, being bullied, B, have a diagnostic, mental disorder. 20% of our children right now under 18 have a DSM-5 disorder. Now, I don't like to use that, but we're talking about kids who are bullying, who definitely have issues. So, you can't take a bully and bully them more. It's just going to make a sicker young person. And so I say, like, if let's say a child is bullying another child, like my son being bullied was a huge problem to our family. But the bully, one of the bullies, I knew the mother, so I called her, and darned if she didn't bully the crap out of me. And on the phone, I said to her, I had your son in my house for 6 months, and actually it was his daughter who bullied my son, and it was her daughter, but I had her son in the house, but I knew that there were family issues, there was no dad, and this girl started just really, and I didn't know it until a teacher, thank God, contacted me and said, your son's grades are getting weird. And the minute I asked him about this, he said, well, I'm being bullied at this Catholic, The next day, that was it. I took him out of the school because I was not interested in being punitive to anybody. I want to protect my child at any. So I think that we have a kid problem and like relationship problems, and that the bullies are not, let's say, they're kids. We're all underneath, right? We're all human, and these kids are screaming for attention and need help. And like you said, none of these. The thing that works is your project, where you have the kids have like a retreat day all together, and they all kind of put their guards down. My son was tortured, with his physical and his illness and his depression, and that just, makes you a target for a sicker kid. A normal or a healthy or a happy kid would say, hey, Daniel, like, you want to have lunch? Half the time, you wouldn't believe how many kids are having lunch in the bathrooms by themselves. Luckily, my son had a teacher who was really sweet, and she had lunch. She loved him, and she let him have lunch in the classroom with him. But it's torture, and then, we actually thought he was on the way up. He had a girlfriend. I've shared this many times. He had a girlfriend. He worked out. But I think that shot to your self-esteem, if you don't realize the other person is actually sicker than you. And I honestly, I'm not opposed to people who have who are severe bullies. I really think that CPS needs to get involved, that the family needs to get investigated, because who knows if they don't have food. These kids may not have any money. They may be bullying. Maybe I've heard of kids living in garages with no food. And how will we really? It's hard to know this stuff. So that's my take on it. Just like with the drugs and the mental health. What's behind these bullies, and I think we need to help them. They really need help, as do the kids, who are being bullied, obviously. It's brutal for parents.
Absolutely. Stephen?
I experienced bullying when I was a kid. I didn't have many friends actually until much later in high school. And so I just sort of want to mirror again what a lot of people already said. One of the statistics that, just trying to bump it up into adulthood for a second, 80% of abusers of either spouses or their children experienced abuse when they were children or witnessed abuse when they were children. And I think it's a similar dynamic with kids who are bullying, is they're being exposed to something that is communicating to them that this is appropriate behavior. Or they're being deprived something that they don't know how else to ask for, be it ego preservation or affection or validation or what have you. And so I think, again, humanizing these kids, both the ones who are victims and also the ones doing the bullying, and opening up a space where we recognize that we're all equal and we're struggling with different things, and giving people a space to be seen and again validated for what their struggles might be. And again, I think bringing in school is making a precedent to talk about these things and enrobing the parents in that process as well. Because at the end of the day, both the bully and the victim have value. They have dreams, they have hopes, they have needs, they have wants. And there's something happening where both of those children are not getting what they need in that moment. And we're missing, I think, a really good opportunity to put them both into a space that says, we want to help, we see you, and we want to understand more. And I think that's the greatest gift you can give any child, is the recognition that they matter, as we've talked so much about tonight, that we're human, that their experience, however negative or positive it may be, whatever it is they're lacking or they need, that need is valid. What can we do to help? How can I help you? How can I get you to the place where you need to be?
Absolutely. Rocco and I, and Rocco's going to do a great review on the movie, and I don't want to give away Rocco's movie, but there was one scene in the movie that got me so mad I wanted to scream, and the steam was coming out of my ears. I was so angry, and I want to ask you guys if maybe this is typical of parents. The principal called for a meeting to suspend a bully, and he had the bully's parents in the room with the kid. And the kid was like trying to be apologetic, but the mom, she did like all the talking. Now the kid was being a bully to a young boy that had a disease, a face deformity. And the mom, instead of like being apologetic, what she did was, this is what the mom did, not the kid. She photoshopped the school picture and edited out the kid with the face deformity. And she gave it to her son to take it around school. And when she was confronted with this, she said, of course I did it. Because do you know how upset it gets our family when people would look at his picture? And we can't have that to our family. And and she was like incredulous that her son was going to be disciplined, and was like, how dare the school allow this kid with a deformity in the school? And it was like, can you believe what's coming out of this woman's face?
Definitely. Definitely, Howie. Come on.
Yeah.
People are so defensive. They'll defend, they'll defend anything. That you can exactly that they were showing you how these bully parents, these bully kids. When this lady who I took care of her child for 6 months, he slept over my house, and she started bullying me. I said to her, "Do you realize you're bullying me?" And she said, she totally did not, she deflected, denied, called me names. And I was being nice. I just said, I want you to know that your daughter probably has something happening. Nothing. So.
Do you want me to respond to? I mean, again, I think a lot of these struggles come out of power dynamics, the power dynamic between the child and the parent, the power dynamic between the teacher and the student, the power dynamic between the principal and the teacher. There's so many different spaces, but the parent holds power over their child, and they hold the power to invalidate their experience or to validate it, and the interplay between that, between how parents interact with one another and how their students or how their children see that and witness this. A very close friend of mine who's an actor in London, we had a really candid conversation, and she, in her very beautiful, blunt way, said, I think it's our parents' job to mess us up. And I thought that was like really strangely profound, and it kind of humanized this idea that like parents are going to do things that sometimes we can kind of go, even as their children, just like, that's really messed up. And we can learn from those things. But in that moment, when you're a child, you don't have the power to do anything about it. And so the students and the children are sort of at the whims of the administration of the school itself, as well as the parents that are bringing those children to those institutions. So.
Absolutely enough. Mayor Minch. Mayor started in Long Beach, first grade. And Mayor, a lot of people here don't know you, so why don't you tell us your story dealing with bullying that you dealt with, and basically dealt with your entire school experience from first grade all the way through high school.
Hi guys, my name is Mayor. I'm usually part of the Halftime Howie show. I'm a weekly representative on the show. I experienced a lot, physical and emotional, where when I was in third grade, 2 kids threw me a flight of stairs, ended me in the hospital for 3 weeks in a coma at 8 years old. They kept on picking on me, throwing stuff in my face, and throughout middle school and high school, it got even worse through high school, where like I was like zoned out from the whole school district. And like they used to call me names. They used to like put like stuff like how the classic "kick me" sign in the back of my shirt.
Yeah.
That, or you're a loser, you're not gonna make it in the real world. And it made me feel very suicidal. Like I was thinking about one time in high school, trying to kill myself. Wanted to go to the Long Beach LIRR station and throw myself in front of a LIRR train. And I was kind of planning everything, and I knew where to stand and everything, because if you look at an LIRR train in the front, you have like that long needle that sticks into the platform. That just scared me, and it was really bad. I mean, to go through it, and what I like about the school district now that they do at LBHS is the bullying program, which where everybody that gets bullied, even what I think is a good example to have in every school district, and what I think that also needs to be implemented is called walk in each other's shoes. Go through it, you pretend to be the bully, and then the bully pretends to be you. How does it feel? I mean, it should be implemented around the world and around this country, where it should be more drastical, immediate expulsion from the school. You cannot graduate, you cannot take that away from them, because if you take that away, it'll be, wow, I can't graduate because of what I did.
Yeah, and just further, and Jonathan, I'll get to you on this point, is that with Mayor, and I want to see what happens in your district, when the kids find out something about a kid, with Mayor, they found out right away that he didn't have a father, never met his father. They also found out that his mom is developmentally disabled. And right away, they attacked him and picked on him. They used to call him Mayor the whore. Talk about, in your experiences, when kids find out some information on a kid, they use it and are merciless the way they attack someone. Talk about your experiences dealing with something like that.
Thank you for sharing that. That was powerful. In my experiences, in my class anyway, we don't. Things do come out. Things do come out. We have 25 days to get close, because the end result is going to be the class is going to be running a program with other grade levels, and they want that final. They want to be charged. They want to be doing these things. So things do come out: eating disorders, self-harm, drug use. From my experiences in the room, when you develop that sense of unity, you develop that sense of we're all in this together, that minimizes. You start to see kids who also had things going on that will then start to share. And I really do think that does limit the drug use. It really does limit the self-harm when you get to talk. You know, going back to the little Pete thing, his brother is recording him passed out, and ideally he passed away. Like, if we started like recording our real emotions, the positive things, I think we have a lot better examples. I want to give you an example, speaking of, well, with the father piece or the mother piece or whatever. I want to give the people, especially the young people watching, a great example. All right, 2 quick things. 1, think about the turning point in your life right now. Just think about it. Major, not like joining a sports league, getting your braces off. Something powerful. I got mine, you all have theirs, you have yours. Imagine if we all wore that as our name tag for the day. How much nicer we'd be. Number 2, if you're like, I hate to use the word bully, if you were just the guy or the girl, picking on, give me somebody, transgender kid. I don't understand that, I'm confused, I don't understand that. Here's my analogy for you. Have you never felt uncomfortable in your own skin? Have you ever had to go home as a football player, not catching the ball right and having your parents disappointed in who you are? Have you ever been the AP kid who didn't get the 99 on the test, only got a 90, and the parents disappointed you? There's so much more commonality, so it shouldn't be so. So instead of it being a father who's no longer in the picture, or a disabled mother, or an LGBT thing, or a jock thing, or whatever else, there's so much commonality. So I think if we start teaching that, it won't look so obvious that things are askew in someone's life, because we all got it.
Michael, do you ever notice sometimes where a kid will say everything is fine, but you can read into his face or her face, or the way they dress, or a change in their patterns, that you know something is amiss?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This just happened. I'm gonna go emotional. I'm not gonna do that. There were 2 things this past week. I noticed some things. It happened my very first year. She's a nurse now. The very first year I noticed one of my students wasn't eating. Very first year. And then this happened this past week. I had 2 really powerful moments in the room where you can just pick up on it. I mean, if we as educators look more, I mean, these kids spend more time with us than they do with their own families. The kids always, I'm a big Post-it note guy. So if I see a kid's out, I just walk around the room, put a Post-it note, you okay? You know, come see me. And my door is always open, my door is always revolving. And I don't want to share the 2 stories because it's so fresh and new, but yes, it's very obvious. And I always educate the kids, because we also work with other young children. And we had a great discussion last week about this. If you see or hear something that makes you pauses for concern, Snapchat, Instagram, someone's acting weird, you have an obligation to do something about it. Like, you can't, I said I'm 36 years old, I've been doing this job a long time, and they all know how much I care and I want to do more. If there's something that if you're hurting yourself, someone's hurting you, or someone's in a state of sadness, I don't know what to do. So I will take that person and bring them to the person that will. So what can their friend do? You have to start talking. And talking, you will realize that we all have stuff. See, when you go on your social media, see, here's what happens. You go home, you wake up in the morning, no one's home. You get on the bus, you go to school, headphones in, no one talks to you. So then you start your first period, walk through the hallway, no one says hi to you, you're not the cool kid, so you put the music on. Sit in the class, teacher talks at you for 40 minutes, you get out, headphones on, you keep going. Do that 8 periods a day. Then you're so sad, you go on your social media and you look at how great everyone else's life is, because we're pretending. And, oh my God, they didn't invite me out, they didn't invite me out, they didn't invite me out. That cycle needs to stop. And how does it stop? You have to talk. That's it.
Mayor.
I mean, touching point like that. I mean, it's a saying. I mean, I've heard it in the city. You know, MTA there has a sign that says, "If you see something, say something." Yep. Don't be afraid to approach somebody if you need help. Like with me, like my guidance counselor did not help me. I had no help from nobody in high school. Just remember, guys, if you guys go to a club, just join something where you are good at. Other people will recognize it, and as well as just be who you are. Like, you know how the sign says you matter? I think it should be also we all matter. I mean, it's everything. I mean, it's a very powerful statement. I mean, it's like when I see that shirt, I see this card. I mean, this card, I mean, it's I know it's a part of Danny's Dream Foundation, but like, and it's a part of all of us, I'm sorry. But like, yeah, I mean, if you see something, guys, just say something, because if one, it's a domino effect. One thing could lead to another, and you can actually save someone's life.
Yes, you know, I agree with what everyone's saying, and the "You Matter" thing was definitely my angel son Daniel. He's got a good sense of humor. He's always like doing little things with me. But I do think, first of all, your story had me in tears. It reminded me of my son. And secondly, you're a rarity, unfortunately. I know in my son's school, he got no help, and he should have been provided an IEP and was denied because it was only psychological, emotional, and he got no extra attention because he was able to get good grades, but there was nothing, no one, and you know, all these kids have these gigantic IEPs, and he had a specification for an IEP for extra help, and he was denied it because he had two parents, you know, who walked in the room, who spoke English, who were able to communicate, and so we were sort of just, and it was almost like reverse discrimination, because they said, well, you know, he's got three parents who are intervening for him, so let's like get the kid, you know. But to tell you the truth, my son's girlfriend tells me even today, I'm like her fairy, she's like my fairy goddaughter now. He's gone, but we're still in a relationship, thank God. And she said and she's got excellent grades. She's 6 foot, and she sent me a text on Thursday telling me, and she's well adjusted, telling me she cannot stand another minute. She's bursting out crying in school. She's got PTSD, probably, from my son's death. And she was told by the social worker that the social worker had, I don't know what this is called, like a mandated session. And then she went to her guidance counselor, and he told her that he really only deals with college stuff, but you know, he'll let her sit in the room and cry if she wants. And this is the truth.
Want to jump in?
And not only that, but the last year, or right after my son passed, I went in with some kids who were like student leaders to the principal's office, and I said, I will fund a safe room for these kids. I will fund anything. I will volunteer. And he listens to and the girls agreed, you know, the young ladies said, we really need a safe space. You know what they call the lunchroom? I don't know if they still do this in Long Beach High School. They call it the jungle.
Yeah.
I'm not making this up. And so, who wants to go into a place called the jungle for lunch? And this young lady sent me a text from school, and her mother works like 18 hours a day, really long. And I just said, listen, go to the ladies' room, take a breath, put water in your face. I'll be there at 3 to pick you up. But my son did not get special attention, and we offered it, and we suggested it, and the district didn't want the numbers. They didn't want to be seen as a district with problems. And I'm sorry, but that's my feeling. And my son had my attention, and he had full-time care after school, but when it really mattered, he was being abused, he was getting his lunch thrown around.
I had the same issue.
He had kids pull his hair. I mean,
What does the school do with these
they
things?
did nothing.
You know, I was asking what the school, the fact that the school doesn't do anything, but breaks my heart. I'm proud to say that, let me tell you, budgets, right? Budgets are great, right? We need more social workers in these buildings. We need more social workers in the buildings. Guidance counselors are inundated, I will say, with the college process in the high school setting, middle school setting, scheduling. We need social workers in my school district. The largest is Howie said at the beginning, Long Island's second largest. Our high school has 2,500 students. We have 1 full-time social worker, 3 psychologists. And one of our social workers does the transition. We need more social workers because the kids today need help. We also need teachers in the school districts because a lot of times kids don't know who to go to. We need teachers who are at the forefront, on the front lines, if you will, to sit and watch a news story with their children, right? Their children, and come to school and be Jonathan for a few minutes. Not Mr. Charamonti, not Mrs. Smith. We need to talk and use what's happening in the news and express this doesn't happen here. So then the kid can see us as human and then go, that's who I want to go talk to. We can't keep worrying about 45 minutes of science and math and English as if it is the most important thing. It isn't. And I may lose friendships that way and whatever, but I'd rather lose friendships of adults than lose children. So.
Yeah, I want to jump back on that too. I mean, in my field as a social worker, I think the greatest threat to our job and our ability to do our job is burnout, and burnout in the sense of like, you know, the job demands are so high, you know, budgets and quotas and numbers and all this jazz, where what ends up happening is the demands of the job make it so they want you to be a machine. They want you to just be able to pump things out and just get them out there as quickly as possible. And we're not machines. But the only way that we can operate that way is if we turn off ability to feel. Ability to feel with our students, the ability to feel with our clients, the ability to feel with our fellow coworkers. And so if a student sits in front of you and divulges to you a deep, dark secret or something horrible happening in the household, and your first thought is, God, I don't want to have to document this, you should leave your job. You should quit because you can no longer do your job. And the greatest gift you as a professional can give yourself is whatever it is that you need to stave off burnout, is to enrich your life so that you can continue to feel with the human beings that surround you. Does it mean you know, taking time off? Does it mean taking more vacations? Does it mean being with your children? Does it mean doing that thing that you've always wanted to but couldn't? I don't care what it is. What I do care about is if your inability to feel and to hold space with another human being and to see another human being and to cry with another human being and to be angry with another human being and to just be there with them. If you can't do that anymore, but golly, are you good at your job? Please quit, because you're not just you're not just jeopardizing your own life, your own emotional health, and your family's own emotional health, but especially if you work in the service industry, you are directly jeopardizing the lives of your students and the lives of your clients. And if you disagree with me, I highly recommend that you step back and reflect on your place within your career, within your profession, and within the group of humans that you're expected to serve.
I mean, wow, this guy, I give my hat off to this guy because honestly, like, I think what he's saying, it touches a point. Also, what I think that the school district should do is, it's cool. I think they've done it at Long Beach City School District where they send the deans to the student's house, or that should be implemented, where if the student's not being honest at you, how was your day at school, what did you do? The dean should go to the student's house, sit with the parents and say, listen, your son is being very disruptive in our school system. Your student, I mean, we cannot have it. We have a zero tolerance policy at our school, but usually when they mean zero tolerance policy, they don't have any. They have a lot of tolerance for a lot of BS in the school districts, not just Long Beach, Island Park, Oceanside, worldwide, countrywide. What I think that needs to be done is the deans need to go to the houses and say, listen, if your student's going to be doing this, then we cannot have him in our building because this is what's going to lead to another person losing their life. And I'm so sorry for your child's loss. I mean, he's giving you a lot of encouragement. And I respect a lot of these people here. I mean, you're like a musician. You went through a lot of bullying. I'm a business owner. I own a graphic tee company, and just to see the people who get bullied, like, we all are making it. We're all surviving it. We're all going strong. And seeing the people that bullied me right now, I saw one of them yesterday driving a 1986 broken down car, looking like nothing. And he saw me. He was like, "Wow, Mayor, look at you! Look like idolizing me with my 2018 Camry, pulling up next to 7-Eleven yesterday." And I was like, "Yeah, that's what you bullied me. So like, why are you even talking to me? Hey, Mayor, is trying to be my friend as an adult." What I think that these kids need to do is look at one another and say, we will make it. We need to stick together, because if we stick together, we can outrank the bullying.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. And your story really, I mean, and I relate. I saw my husband out there starting to cry, and that's why. I'm sorry.
It's alright to cry. It's alright.
This is why it's so important to me that my son lives on, and why I'm so grateful to Howie and to you guys, because really,
If you keep his passion, he will always be alive.
and he's always with me. I have you all supporting me, and you know, I had bullying in my life also, and you know, we're really making an effort to do as much as we can, because if you go on our webpage, my son Daniel wrote a dream, and in the dream he walked through a door that was blue, and it was his favorite color, and he looked down and he was in a hospital gown with his little favorite teddy bear. And he saw, it was a very bright room, and he saw a little bench with a young boy sitting there with blonde hair with the same teddy bear. It was a doggy, Snowball. And so he walked around, and he describes in his dream, I'm just going to foreshorten it, he sat next to the little boy, and he said, "Don't ever give up, no matter what, be strong, because you are going to do great things. Don't ever give up, be brave, and have courage." And he said, he held the little boy and he comforted him, and he walked sort of out of the room, and he had this feeling of terror when he left the room, but he said, "Have hope, things will be great." And he left the room, and he said he looked down at himself, and he was still in his hospital gown. And he said, "I wonder when I'm 20, and I look back at when I was 16, how great things will have turned out." And so we call this Danny's Dream Foundation, because I have to make his dream.
A year after Jackie lost Daniel, another young boy in Long Beach, 13 years old, Brendan Carr, took his own life. And Jackie and I and a few others, after that horrendous tragedy, organized a vigil at Kennedy Plaza. And I got several text messages that day. Don't hold the vigil. We don't want to glorify suicide. And
Like
we were not
contagious.
we were not going to be denied. We held the vigil. We were there for Julie Carr, who just lost a son, and from that day, from that, over hundreds of people showed up. And
Congressmen, yeah.
yeah, and talk about the special bond that you and Julie had, because you both have experienced it, and I know that you've been a source of great strength for Julie.
Well, as a part of my foundation, it's, you might know, like, a lot of us, have said, I'm a therapist, and like, people look, people could say, well, gee, and your son did that? Well, yes, and treatment doesn't always work, and with enough damage, this is a malignant illness, and you don't know, But Julie and I, so I've decided to put myself out there, both as a therapist and after Danny died, I said I'm not going to just not use the word. He died by suicide. I don't say how, but I say, and people can look at me in my eyes and they have to, whatever they're internally dealing with, I'm not going to make it up that he did something else. But so I've also tried to put both sides of my struggle, the pain but also the strength. And I've been, almost like in a 12-step program, like I've been mentoring a lot of young kids. And also with Julie, I said, the day my son was supposed to go back to school, I almost wanted to jump out of my seat. They didn't even mention my son had gone to he had transitioned or he had died. They said nothing. I called the school and I begged them, please have a moment of silence for my son. Nothing. He refused. The superintendent refused, and 2 other people called too, and they said the family doesn't want it, which means he lied. So I just said, I called Howie and I said, I'm damned if nobody is going to acknowledge this child's existence. If they're not going to say anything, we're gonna.
Yeah.
And all day long, somebody kept saying they're not doing it. They're not doing it. We had people one lady brought like 1,000 candles. Yeah. We had a couple of state senators. We had religious people. And what we had afterwards, a lot of them, remember, we stayed until everybody left with somebody. People had prayer groups, whatever, all the different ethnic backgrounds. And a lot of the moms took the kids out for pizza. And so we made sure, Howie and I and my husband, and we made sure nobody, and Julie came, she wasn't even gonna, I didn't want to make it a big deal. I just said, we're only here to just acknowledge that this child lived and that we care. I didn't want to make it political, just said he lived and we cared, and that's what we did. And I think it was a good thing. And all those kids going into school, as freshmen in high school, really have a case of PTSD.
Sure.
So anyway, that's why I try to pay it forward. I'm showing you my feelings. I am a professional, but I'm a human being, and my son got the best care except at school. But yeah, so that's that.
We gotta put an end to this segment because we have so much more to do. But this was such a moving, riveting segment. I want to thank all the people from Jonathan Tremonti and Kevin, and Shelley, and Jackie, and Jackie, Jackie, Stephen and Mayor. I mean, everybody spoke from the heart. I hope that a lot of people watching got a lot out of it, and we have so much more to do, but I think a lot of really important issues were raised in this bullying segment, and I just hope it helps people. And you know what, folks? This is not the end. We're gonna keep doing shows like this, keep bringing brilliant people like Jonathan and Kevin and Stephen and Jackie on the show, because we got to keep the word out there. And if we can help kids out there, one person who's going through the dark days, then it's all worth it. And I thank everyone for sharing, speaking from the heart on this extremely important subject. And everyone, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.